In this video, I'm going to show you how to record the graduation or completion of your students. So what we want to do is go to our graduate licensure data entry, and our graduating cohort was the fall 19 ADN pathway. That was their beginning cohort, so that's the cohort that's graduating this time. So we can see here that I want to go and record the graduation. And these graduated in spring 21. So I can do this and I can use the drop down if I want, which I'm going to use for this. Or you can simply copy and paste if you want to add that information. I just want to make sure that I don't include the students that withdrew at one point and then readmitted. So this student, he withdrew at a prior semester, so he's not graduating with his beginning cohort. Same way with Mr. Silks here. He readmitted and withdrew and readmitted, so he's not graduating with this cohort. So we can see here, I click Save. I have when they graduated, and if I have multiple pathways in my ADN program, I can select a pathway. Say I have a traditional, accelerated, or an alternate pathway in my ADN program for this group. I can go and record that pathway. You can also just begin by putting the first letter of traditional, alternate, or accelerated pathway and do that. I'm just going to do traditional. Oops, I recorded one that withdrew, so he didn't graduate. And then I go here and put my pathway. Now, all these students graduated in the 4 semesters or 100% of my program. You can use this either way. You can use it by semester or percentage. I recommend using it by percentage. The number of semesters may be important to you to clarify that you've got the right students recorded, but you want to record it as 100, 150%, or 200%. And I've recorded my graduation, and I'm done with this, so I click Save. But I had 18 graduate, and it shows here that I had 18 student graduates, but I know I had 19 in my graduating class. That tells me that I had a readmit from my prior semester. So what I'll go in here do is close that, go to my student tracking form, and I've already identified that the student that I'm missing, last name is Vu. And what happened with Mr. Vu is, or Ms. Vu, is that she withdrew in fall of 18, had a personal withdrawal, stayed out a year, and came back in fall of 19. So now I want to record her. So I go down here and I put spring 21 as the semester she graduated, the traditional program, and because it took her more than 4 semesters to graduate, I record her at 150%. So I click Save, and I'm done. So now I have my 19 students that graduated. How I verify that is by closing and clicking the graduating cohort statistics form, and I put spring 21, and you can put up to 2 semesters in here. I just want to look at the one, and it shows me my group that graduated. I started out with 20. I had some readmits, so now I have 21 that graduated this semester, and we failed to record that. And they originally came from they came from another pathway, and then went to the traditional. So that shows me that I had 21 graduates, 20 or 18 from my beginning cohort, and 3 that were readmits. So I make sure that I recorded them. As you can see, I've recorded the cohort information, the beginning cohort, and now I have their ending cohort, which is the semester in which they graduated. So I'm going to close that. Now I want to go and I want to input my licensure data. So I'm going to put my licensure information. So I want to pull up this cohort again, and I want to go and record. I've got my information back from my accrediting agency or licensing agency, so I want to go and record their when they pass their licensure. So I'm going to put here, I'm going to click a few. This one failed on their first attempt, passed on the second. Uh, this one hadn't tested yet. This one passed, failed, passed on the second. This one failed on their first attempt, but they passed and failed on the second, so they uh, passed on subsequent attempts. So I'm going to go down here and I'm just going to record all this information. Majority of my students passed on the first attempt, so I'm going to click that and I'm going to click save, and it gives me my totals at the bottom. But what I want to make sure and do is if the students pass at any point in time during their attempts at their licensure exam, we want to go over here and click this box on the right hand. That is their licensure pass rate overall. That tells you that it doesn't designate whether it's first attempt, second attempt, or whatever. It just records that they are now licensed. You click save, and it gives your calculations at the bottom. We had 20 in this cohort that graduated, and or 18 that graduated. 18 graduated in 4 semesters. Now, as these students that readmitted from this cohort, as they go through the program and graduate, it'll pull those calculations in here too, as well as your licensure and pass rate. So we've had 15 that passed on the first attempt, 3 that failed, 2 that passed on the second attempt, and 1 that passed on their subsequent attempt. So we click save and we close, and we're recording the information for all of those that graduated and their licensure exam. So now we're going to look at the graduate employment entry, and again we're going to pull up spring 21, and it brings up all that graduated in that time. We've done our surveys, we've made our phone calls, we've done our email campaign to get answers from the students as to how they have done on their employment searches. So we're going to go in here and record uh, whether they were employed at 6 months, 12 months. It's entirely up to you. But we have the licensure passed overall here because we don't want to record them if they haven't passed their licensure. We're recording only employment information for those that have passed their licensure exam. We don't want to record if they haven't passed their licensure exam. So we click save and it updates our figures at the bottom and we're done. And that's how you record their graduation, their licensure, and their employment.